The war had been going on for 3 years. 3 long, bloody years that had turned entire star systems into graveyards. The Zephyrian Empire and the Qatari Federation had been fighting with such fury that even the neutral worlds were starting to panic. Admiral Jake Morrison sat in his office on Earth, looking at reports from the outer colonies. The humans had been watching the Galactic War from a distance, but Jake knew it was only a matter of time before they got pulled into it. Earth was still new to the galactic community, and most alien species saw humans as primitive newcomers. A soft chime interrupted his thoughts. His communication device was blinking with an incoming message. Jake frowned as he saw the sender's identification. It was from the Galactic Council itself. Admiral Morrison. The message began in perfect English, though Jake could tell it was. Translated. The Galactic Council formally requests your presence at an emergency session. The matter concerns the ongoing conflict between the Zephyrian Empire and the Qatari Federation. Your expertise in military affairs would be valuable to our discussions. Jake read the message twice. The Galactic Council had never asked for human input before. In fact, most council members barely acknowledged that Earth existed. Something big was happening. He called his aide into the office. Lieutenant Commander Lisa Bennett walked in, carrying a tablet full of reports. Lisa was one of the smartest tactical officers Jake had ever worked with. She could spot problems others missed. "Lisa, take a look at this," Jake said, showing her. The message. "What do you think?" Lisa read it carefully. Her expression grew serious. "Sir, this is unusual. The Council has ignored us for 2 years. Why do they suddenly want our help?" "That's what I'm wondering," Jake replied. "Get me everything we have on the current war situation. I want to know exactly what's happening out there." Lisa nodded and left the office. Jake turned back to his window, looking out at the blue sky of Earth. Somewhere out there, aliens were dying in numbers that humans could barely imagine. 3 hours later, Lisa returned with a thick folder of reports. Her face was pale. "Sir, you need to see this. The war is worse than we thought. Much worse." Jake opened the folder and started reading. The numbers were staggering. Entire planets had been destroyed. Billions of civilians were dead. The Zephyrians and Qatari weren't just fighting a war. They were trying to wipe each other out completely. How did it get this bad? Jake asked. According to our intelligence, both sides have been using biological weapons, planet killers, and something called genetic viruses, Lisa explained. They're not trying to win territory or resources. They're trying to make sure the other species doesn't exist anymore. Jake felt sick. Humans had fought terrible wars, but nothing like this. Even at their worst, humans had never tried to completely destroy another species. "There's more, sir," Lisa continued. "Our sources say both sides are running out of ships, soldiers, and supplies. The war might end soon, but only because there won't be anyone left to fight." Jake closed the folder. Now, he understood why the Council wanted human help. They were desperate. Meanwhile, on the other side of the galaxy, General Vexter of the Zephyrian Empire stood in a council chamber, arguing with his superiors. He was a tall, gray-skinned alien with 4 arms and eyes that glowed red when he was angry. Right now, they were burning like fire. "You cannot be serious about this plan," Vexter said, his voice shaking with emotion. "The humans are not like us. They fight differently. They think differently." Supreme Commander Nalfik, an even larger Zephyrian, dismissed his concerns. With a wave of his hand, "General, we need fresh troops and new tactics. The humans have proven themselves capable in small conflicts. Their technology is primitive, but their methods are creative." "Creative?" Vexter's voice rose. "Have you read the reports about their history? They have fought wars for thousands of years, but they always stop. They make peace, They rebuild. They help their enemies recover. This is not normal behavior. The other commanders in the room looked at each other. They had all read the same reports about human warfare, but they didn't see the problem that Vexter saw. "General," Yalthik said slowly, "we are losing this war. The Kratari will destroy us. All if we don't do something soon. If the humans can help us win, we will use them." Vexter had studied human military history more carefully than anyone else in the Zephyrian military. He had read about their wars, their tactics, and their strange habit of showing mercy to defeated enemies. The other commanders saw these traits as weaknesses. Vexter saw them as something far more dangerous. "You don't understand?" he said quietly. "Humans don't fight wars to destroy. They fight wars to end them. If we bring them into this conflict, they will not help us win. They will try to stop the war completely." "Good," Yalthik replied. "Let them stop it by helping us destroy the Kratari." Vexter shook his head. "No, you still don't understand. They will try to stop us from destroying the Kratari. They will try to make us make peace." The room fell silent. The idea of making peace with the Kratari was so alien to them that they couldn't even process it properly. For 3 years, both sides had been focused on complete annihilation. The concept of stopping the war without destroying the enemy was impossible to understand. "General Vexter," Nalthik said in a warning tone, "you are beginning to sound like a traitor. The Kratari must be destroyed. If the humans can help us do that, we will use them." Vexter looked around the room at his fellow commanders. They all had the same look in their eyes, the look of beings who had been fighting for so long that they had forgotten there could be any other way. "I formally request permission to contact the humans myself," Vexter said, "to warn them about what they are getting into." "Request denied," Nalthik replied immediately. "You will prepare your forces to work with the human military when they arrive." "That is an order." Vexter saluted and left the chamber. As he walked through the corridors of the command ship, he could see the evidence of the long war everywhere. Damaged walls, tired soldiers, and the constant smell of recycled air because too many ships had been destroyed to maintain proper life support. Had to find a way to contact the humans, not to help them fight the war, but to warn them to stay away. Because Vexter knew something his commanders didn't. Once humans entered a war, they didn't just fight it. They changed it into something completely different, and that change would terrify both sides more than any weapon ever could. Captain Ryan Hughes had never seen anything like Nexus Prime. The massive space station floated in neutral space, bigger than any city on Earth. Ships from dozens of different alien species docked at its ports, creating a maze of metal and lights that stretched for miles in every direction. The UE's Endeavour approached slowly, following the traffic control signals that came in 17 different languages. Ryan had been chosen to lead humanity's first major diplomatic mission because of his calm nature and quick thinking. Today, he would need both. "Captain, we're getting our docking assignment," reported Lieutenant Ben Parker from the communications station. "Bay 47, level 12. They're sending us an escort." Ryan nodded and looked around the bridge. His crew was nervous but excited. Dr. Amy Foster, the mission's xenobiologist, was practically bouncing in her seat as she watched the alien ships through the view screen. Commander Nick Carter, their military strategist, was studying tactical displays with his usual serious expression. "Remember," Ryan announced to his crew, "we're here to listen and learn. The Council says they want our help with peacekeeping, but we don't know what that really means yet." The docking process took 2 hours. Every procedure had to be translated, checked, and approved by multiple alien bureaucrats. When they finally boarded the station, Ryan's team was met by a delegation of 3 aliens from different species. The lead alien was tall and thin. with blue skin and eyes that seemed to see everything at once. "Welcome to Nexus Prime," it said in translated English. "I am Coordinator Zelanax. We have been waiting for your arrival." Dr. Foster stepped forward, her scientific curiosity overcoming her diplomacy training. "This is amazing. The diversity of species here is incredible. How do you all communicate?" Zelanax seemed pleased by the question. "We use translation matrices and universal concepts. Most species can adapt to our systems within a few cycles." Commander Carter was less interested in the technical details. "Coordinator, we're here to discuss the peacekeeping mission. Can you tell us more about what you need?" "Of course," Zelanax replied. "Follow me to the council chambers. The other delegates are waiting." As they walked through the station, Ryan noticed something odd. The aliens they passed looked tired and stressed. Many moved quickly, as if they were afraid of something. Dr. Foster noticed it too, and kept glancing at the aliens with a concerned expression. The council chambers were impressive. A large circular room with seats arranged in tiers, allowing representatives from dozens of species to participate in discussions. Ryan counted at least 30 different alien types, each more unusual than the last. "Humans of Earth," announced a voice from the center of the room. "We welcome you to the Galactic Council. I am Prime Coordinator Taishka of the Kratari Federation." Ryan looked at the speaker. She was shorter than most of the other aliens, with gray skin and 4 arms. Her voice was calm, but Ryan noticed that her hands were shaking slightly. "Thank you for the invitation," Ryan replied. "We're honored to be here. The situation is simple," Taiska continued. "The Zephyrian Empire and my own Federation have been engaged in a conflict for 3 cycles. We need fresh perspectives and new approaches to end this war." Commander Carter leaned forward. "What kind of conflict are we talking about? Border disputes? Resource conflicts?" There was a long pause. The aliens looked at each other uncomfortably. Finally, a tall gray alien with red eyes spoke up. "The conflict is comprehensive. Both sides have committed significant resources to achieving victory." Dr. Foster frowned. She had been studying alien body language during the briefing, and something was wrong. "Excuse me, but you all seem very stressed. Are you in immediate danger?" Another uncomfortable pause. Taishka's hands stopped shaking for a moment, then started again. "The war has been difficult for all involved parties." "How difficult?" Ryan asked. "Casualties have been extensive," the red-eyed alien admitted. "Both sides have lost many ships and soldiers." Commander Carter pulled out his tablet. "Could you provide us with some specific numbers? Troop strengths, engagement reports, casualty figures?" The aliens exchanged glances again. Finally, Zelanax spoke up. "Perhaps we should provide you with detailed briefing materials. The situation is complex." Ryan was starting to understand that the aliens were hiding something important. That would be helpful. "We'll need complete information before we can decide how to help." "Of course," Taishka said quickly. "We will prepare comprehensive reports for your review." The formal meeting continued for another hour, but Ryan noticed that the aliens were being very careful with their words. They talked about resolving the conflict and achieving peace, but they never gave specific details about what was actually happening. After the meeting, Ryan's team was given quarters on the station. As soon as they were alone, Dr. Foster grabbed Ryan's arm. "Something is very wrong here," she said urgently. "I've been watching their physiological responses. They're not just stressed, they're terrified." "Terrified of what?" Ryan asked. "I don't know, but it's not just the war. When we asked about casualty numbers, I saw fear responses from aliens on both sides. They're afraid of something specific." Commander Carter was already analyzing the data they had been given. These briefing materials don't make sense, he said. They're talking about comprehensive engagement and total commitment, but they won't give us actual battle reports. Maybe they're embarrassed about losing, suggested Lieutenant Parker. No, Carter replied. This reads like they're trying to hide the scope of the conflict. Look at these resource allocation reports. Both sides have been using everything they have. Ships, soldiers, weapons, even civilian infrastructure. This isn't a normal war. Dr. Foster was studying medical reports about alien refugees. Ryan, you need to see this. The medical data shows signs of biological weapons exposure, chemical burns, radiation poisoning. These aren't battlefield injuries. They're systematic attacks on civilian populations. Ryan felt his stomach drop. Are you saying they're targeting civilians? I'm saying the line between military and civilian targets seems to have disappeared completely, Dr. Foster replied. Before Ryan could respond, their communication system chimed with an incoming message. The message was encrypted and came from an unknown sender. Should I open it? Parker asked. Ryan nodded. The message appeared on screen, text only, in broken English. Human delegation. Do not trust Council reports. War is not what they tell you. Both sides fight for total destruction. No prisoners. No mercy. No civilians. Only death. You must not help them. They will use you to kill more. This is warning from friend. Do not join this war. The message disappeared immediately, leaving no trace of its origin. Who sent that? Ryan asked. Parker ran diagnostics. On the system. I can't tell. It was routed through multiple relay stations. Someone with high-level access to the station's communication network. Commander Carter stood up. This changes everything. If that message is accurate, we're not talking about a peacekeeping mission. We're talking about genocide. Dr. Foster was pale. The physiological responses make sense now. They're not just afraid of losing the war. They're afraid of what they've become. Ryan looked at his team. They had come here thinking they would help mediate a conflict between two alien species. Instead, they had discovered something much darker. We need more information, Ryan decided, but we proceed carefully. If this war is what I think it is, then both sides are going to try to use us to help them commit mass murder. Outside there, quarters, hidden in the station's maintenance tunnels, General Vegster finished transmitting his warning message. He had risked everything to get aboard Nexus Prime and contact the humans directly. Now all he could do was hope they would listen, because Vexter knew something the human delegation was just beginning to understand. The war between the Zephyrians and Kautari had stopped being about victory a long time ago. Now it was about which species would survive and which would be wiped out forever. And the Galactic Council wanted to give the humans weapons and asked them to choose a side. Colonel Sam Rodriguez had seen war before, but nothing had prepared him for what he found in the Kepler sector. The human task force had arrived expecting to find a typical military conflict. Instead, they discovered something that made even hardened soldiers sick. The U's Liberty dropped out of hyperspace near what used to be the Kratari mining colony of Veltar. Sam stood on the bridge, staring at the view screen in horror. The planet was gone, not destroyed by conventional weapons, but literally dissolved. Where a world should have been, there was only empty space and a cloud of radioactive dust. Sir, we're picking up a distress signal, reported Lieutenant Ben Parker from the communications station. It's coming from that debris field. Survivors? Sam asked. Unclear, sir. The signal is very weak. Major Kate Williams, Sam's specialist in unconventional warfare, was studying the tactical displays. Colonel, I'm reading massive energy signatures throughout this system. Someone used planet-killer weapons here. Multiple times. Sam felt cold. Earth's military had developed planet-killer weapons, but they had never used them. The idea of destroying an entire world was so terrible that humans had agreed to ban the weapons entirely. Yet here, aliens had used them as if they were normal artillery. How many people lived on that planet? Sam asked. Parker checked the database. According to our files, about 8 billion Kratari civilians. 8 billion. Sam had fought in wars, where thousands died, and called it a tragedy. This was beyond anything he could understand. "Sir, we're getting another transmission," Parker announced. "This one is from a Zephyrian ship. They're asking us to identify ourselves." "Put them on screen," Sam ordered. The alien who appeared was tall and gray, with 4 arms and glowing red eyes. "Human vessel. I am Commander Nexrail of the Zephyrian Empire. You are in a combat zone. State your business." "This is Colonel Sam Rodriguez of the United Earth Defense Force. We're here as part of a peacekeeping mission authorized by the Galactic Council." Nexrail's expression didn't change. "There is no peace to keep here, human. Only war. The Kratari colony has been eliminated. We are moving to the next target." Sam felt his anger rising. "You destroyed a planet with 8 billion civilians." "They were Kratari," Nexrail replied, as if that explained everything. "They would have grown up to be soldiers. We prevented future resistance." Major Williams stepped forward. "You killed children, babies, non-combatants." "There are no non-combatants in this war," Nexrail said calmly. "Only Kratari who haven't picked up weapons yet. Now, human, you will move your ship, or we will move it for you." Sam looked at his crew. They were all staring at the screen with expressions of disgust and disbelief. These aliens weren't soldiers. They were monsters. "We're not moving," Sam said quietly. Nexrail's eyes glowed brighter. "Then you will be destroyed with the next Kratari. Target." The transmission ended. Sam turned to his tactical officer. "How many ships do they have?" 12 heavy cruisers, sir. "We have 1 destroyer and 2 escort ships." The odds were terrible, but Sam had an idea. "Kate, remember the Macedonian strategy we studied at the academy?" Major Williams smiled grimly. "Hit and run using asteroid cover. Make them think we're stronger than we are." "Exactly. Ben, get me a channel to the Kratari distress signal. Maybe we can save someone from this mess." The next few hours were unlike anything in human military history. Sam's small force used the asteroid belt around the dead planet as cover, appearing and disappearing like ghosts. They couldn't match the Zephyrian ships in firepower, but they could outmaneuver them. More importantly, they could do something the Zephyrians couldn't understand. They could rescue survivors. The distress signal had come from a damaged Kratari transport ship that had been fleeing the planet when it was destroyed. The ship was badly damaged and carrying mostly civilians. When Sam's rescue teams boarded it, they found something heartbreaking. The Kratari survivors were expecting to be killed. They had never seen humans before, but they assumed any ship that found them would finish what the Zephyrians had started. When the human medics began treating their wounds instead of shooting them, the aliens couldn't understand what was happening. "Why are you helping us?" asked a young Kratari female through a translator. "We are not your species." Dr. Amy Foster, who had joined the mission as a medical officer, knelt beside the injured alien. "Because you're hurt and we can help. That's what we do." The Kratari stared at her with 4 large eyes. "But we are your enemies' enemies. This makes us your allies. You should use us as weapons." "We don't use civilians as weapons," Amy replied. "We help them get to safety." The concept was so foreign to the Kratari that she couldn't process it. In her experience, war meant that everyone was either a weapon or a target. There was no third option. Meanwhile, Major Williams was having her own revelation. She had been studying the tactical data from both sides, and what she found was horrifying. The Zephyrians and Kratari had been fighting for 3 years without any rules at all. No protection for civilians, no treatment for prisoners, no limits on weapons. "Colonel," she reported to Sam, "I don't think these species understand the concept of limited warfare. They fight like every battle is the last battle they'll ever fight." Sam was coordinating the evacuation of the Kratari transport when he received an urgent message from Lieutenant Parker. "Sir, we're picking up a massive Kratari battle fleet. They're heading straight for us." "How many ships?" 23 warships, sir. They're moving to attack the Zephyrian fleet." Sam realized what was about to happen. The Kratari had detected the human rescue operation and were coming to take revenge on the Zephyrians. They didn't know or care that human ships were in the middle of the battle zone. "Get me a channel to the Kratari fleet," Sam ordered. A few moments later, a fierce-looking Kratari commander appeared on screen. "Human vessel, you will move away from the Zephyrian forces. We are going to destroy them all." "There are human ships in this area conducting rescue operations," Sam explained. "Give us time to evacuate the wounded." The Kratari commander's expression didn't change. "Human, you have 60 seconds to clear the area. After that, everything in this sector will be destroyed." "You'll hit your own people," Sam protested. "We're rescuing Kratari civilians." "Acceptable losses," the commander replied. "The Zephyrians must be eliminated." The transmission ended. Sam stared at the screen in disbelief. The Kratari were willing to kill their own people, just to make sure. They destroyed their enemies. This wasn't warfare. It was mutual suicide. "Kate, we need to get creative," Sam said. "How do we save these people when both sides want to kill everyone?" Major Williams was already working on the problem. "We use the one advantage we have. Neither side understands how we think." "What do you mean?" "They expect us to pick a side and start killing. Instead, we don't pick a side. We protect everyone." Sam understood immediately. It was insane, but it might work. "Ben, get me channels to both fleets. All ships, battle stations." When both commanders appeared on screen, Sam addressed them simultaneously. "This is Colonel Sam Rodriguez of the United Earth Defense Force. I'm declaring this area a humanitarian zone. Any ship that fires on civilians will be fired upon." Both alien commanders stared at him in shock. The Zephyrian spoke first. "Human, you cannot protect our enemies." "We're not protecting your enemies," Sam replied. "We're protecting non-combatants." "There's a difference." The Kratari commander was equally confused. "Human, the Zephyrians are here. We must destroy them. You can fight them somewhere else," Sam said. "Not here. Not while we're evacuating wounded." "This is not possible," the Zephyrian protested. "You must choose a side." "We choose the side that doesn't kill civilians," Sam replied. What happened next would be talked about in military academies for generations. The small human force positioned itself between two much larger fleets, protecting a group of wounded aliens that neither side cared about. When the Kratari tried to attack through the human formation, Sam's ships opened fire on them. When the Zephyrians tried to finish off the damaged transport, human ships fired on them too. For the first time in 3 years, both alien fleets found themselves fighting an enemy that didn't want to destroy them. The humans used minimum force, targeting weapons and engines instead of life support. They disabled enemy ships instead of destroying them. Most importantly, they kept protecting the civilians even while under attack from both sides. The battle lasted 6 hours. When it was over, the human task force had taken heavy damage, but they had saved over 3,000 Kratari civilians. More importantly, they had done something impossible. They had fought a battle in the middle of a genocidal war without committing genocide themselves. As the rescued Kratari were transferred to a neutral medical station, Sam received a message from General Vexter, who had been monitoring the battle from a concealed position. "Colonel Rodriguez," the message read, "you have done something that will terrify both sides more than any weapon. You have shown them that war can be fought with honor. They will not understand this. They will not forgive this. Be very careful. Sam." Read the message twice and looked out at the stars. He was beginning to understand that the humans hadn't just entered a war. They had entered a nightmare that had been going on so long that both sides had forgotten there was any other way. To fight, now they would have to learn. The news spread through the galaxy like wildfire. A small human force had stood between two massive fleets and somehow made both of them back down. Captain Tony Martinez read the reports from his command ship, the UES Guardian, and shook his head in amazement. How did Sam pull that off? He asked his first officer, Lieutenant Commander Lisa Bennett. According to the tactical analysis, he used something called humanitarian intervention, Lisa replied. He made saving civilians more important than military objectives. Tony had been a soldier for 15 years, but he had never heard of anything like that. And it worked? Both fleets withdrew rather than fight through the human formation to get to the civilians, Lisa confirmed. The aliens couldn't understand why anyone would risk their own ships to save enemy non-combatants. Tony looked at the star charts. His task force had been assigned to the Rigel sector, where intelligence reported a massive Kratari refugee convoy was under attack by Zephyrian forces. Well, let's see if we can do something similar. The UES Guardian and its escort ships arrived at the battle zone to find chaos. Dozens of civilian ships were scattered across the system, fleeing from a Zephyrian attack fleet. The refugees were mostly families with children, trying to escape the war zone in ships that were never meant for combat. Captain, the Zephyrians are using their warships to hunt down individual refugee ships, reported the tactical officer. They're not taking prisoners. Tony felt his jaw clench. How many civilians are we looking at? Approximately 50,000, sir. Men, women, and children. 50,000 innocent people being hunted like animals. Tony had seen enough. All ships, battle stations. We're going to give these refugees cover. What followed was unlike any battle in military history. The human ships didn't try to destroy the Zephyrian fleet. Instead, they used a combination of deception, misdirection, and tactical brilliance to confuse the enemy. Tony's ships would appear near a group of refugee vessels, drive off the Zephyrian attackers, then disappear before reinforcements could arrive. They used asteroid fields, nebulae, and sensor shadows to stay hidden while moving the civilians to safety. The Zephyrian commander, Admiral Kethver, had never encountered anything like it. What are the humans doing? He demanded from his bridge. They appear, fight for a few minutes, then vanish. Are they trying to win or not? His tactical officer was equally confused. Sir, their behavior doesn't match any known military doctrine. They seem to be protecting the refugees rather than destroying our fleet. That makes no sense, Kethver replied. The refugees are future soldiers. They should be eliminated. The humans don't seem to agree, sir. The turning point came when Tony's force encountered a group of Kratari children whose transport had been damaged. The ship was defenseless, carrying only medical supplies and about 200 young Kratari. The Zephyrians had surrounded it and were preparing to destroy it. Captain, the Zephyrian commander is demanding that we withdraw, reported the communications officer. He says the ship contains enemy genetic material that must be eliminated. Tony looked at the view screen. He could see the transport ship, badly damaged and leaking atmosphere. Inside were children who had never fired a weapon or fought a battle. They were just kids, scared and helpless. Tell the Zephyrian commander that the ship is under human protection, Tony ordered. If he fires on it, we'll consider it an act of war. Sir, we're outnumbered 4-1, his tactical officer warned. Then, "We'll have to be 4 times as smart," Tony replied. What happened next became known as the Guardian Maneuver. Tony's ships didn't attack the Zephyrian fleet directly. Instead, they used a combination of electronic warfare, sensor jamming, and pure psychological manipulation to make the aliens think they were facing a much larger force. The human ships appeared and disappeared at random locations, firing from unexpected angles and using weapons in ways the aliens had never seen. They targeted non-critical systems, disabling enemy ships without destroying them. Most importantly, they used the aliens' own tactics against them. The Zephyrians were used to fighting enemies who tried to kill them as quickly as possible. Humans were doing something different. They were fighting to win without killing, and it was driving the aliens crazy. "Admiral, the humans are using some kind of new weapon," reported the Zephyrian tactical officer. "They're disabling our ships, but not destroying them." Keffer stared at the tactical display. Half of his fleet was dead in space, but all the crews were still alive. What kind of weapon leaves enemies alive? "We don't know, sir. Our disabled ships are receiving offers of medical assistance from the humans." Medical assistance? Keffer couldn't believe what he was hearing. "They're offering to help the crews they just defeated?" "Yes, sir. They're also asking if we need food or water." For the first time in 3 years of war, Admiral Keffer felt something he had almost forgotten: confusion. The humans were fighting like nothing he had ever encountered. They were winning battles, but not killing enemies. They were showing mercy to people who had been trying to kill them. "Sir, what are your orders?" his tactical officer asked. Keffer looked at the screen, showing the Kratari transport full of children. The humans had positioned themselves between his fleet and the refugees, but they weren't attacking. They were just waiting. "Signal the human." "Commander," Keffer ordered, "I want to speak to him." A few minutes later, Captain Tony Martinez appeared on the Zephyrian ship's view screen. He looked calm and confident, not like someone who was outnumbered and outgunned. "Admiral Keffer," Tony said politely, "what can I do for you?" "Human, you are protecting our enemies. Why?" Tony paused, as if the question surprised him. "They're not our enemies. They're refugees. Children, mostly. They are future Kratari soldiers," Keffer insisted. "They will grow up to kill my people." "Maybe," Tony replied. "Or maybe they'll grow up to be doctors, teachers, or engineers. Or maybe they'll grow up to be people who remember that humans protected them when they were helpless." Keffer had never considered that possibility. In his experience, every alien was either an ally or an enemy. The idea that enemies might become allies was completely foreign to him. "You cannot protect them forever," Keffer said. "I don't have to," Tony replied. "I just have to protect them today." The conversation ended with Admiral Keffer ordering his fleet to withdraw, not because he was defeated, but because he couldn't understand what the humans were trying to accomplish. They had won the battle, but they hadn't tried to destroy his ships or kill his crews. They had simply made it impossible for him to kill the refugees. Meanwhile, on the other side of the galaxy, Dr. Lavra Thompson was making her own discoveries. She had been assigned to work with alien civilians from both sides, trying to understand their psychology and culture. What she found was disturbing. "Captain Rodriguez," she reported to Sam via encrypted communication, "I've been working with refugees from both species. They don't understand the concept of proportional response." "What do you mean?" Sam asked. "When they fight to completely destroy the enemy. There's no middle ground. They can't conceive of winning a war without genocide." Sam thought about that. "So when we show mercy, we're doing something they literally cannot understand." "Exactly. It's like we're using a form of mathematics they've never seen before. They know we're winning battles, but they can't figure out how or why." The implications were staggering. The humans weren't just fighting a war, they were demonstrating a completely different way of thinking about conflict. Every battle they fought, every civilian they saved, every enemy they spared, was proof that war didn't have to end in extinction. The final test came when Commander Kevin Johnson encountered a major Zephyrian military base in the Vega system. The base was heavily fortified and contained both military personnel and civilian support staff. According to standard Zephyrian doctrine, Johnson should have either captured it or destroyed it completely. Instead, Johnson did something that shocked both sides. He surrounded the base and offered the defenders a choice. "This is Commander Kevin Johnson of the United Earth Defense Force," he announced on all frequencies. "I am offering the garrison of Base Data 7 the opportunity to surrender. All military personnel will be treated as prisoners of war according to Earth military law. All civilian personnel will be released immediately." The base commander, General Morthex, had never received such an offer. "Human, what is prisoner of war?" Johnson paused. He had assumed that all species understood basic military law. Prisoners of war are enemy soldiers who have surrendered. They must be treated humanely, given medical care, and protected from harm. "You mean you will not kill us?" Morthex asked. "That's correct. Killing prisoners is against human military law." Morthex was silent for a long time. In 3 years of war, no Zephyrian soldier had ever been captured alive. The Kratari killed all prisoners immediately, and the Zephyrians did the same. The idea that an enemy might capture you and then keep you alive was completely new. "What would you do with prisoners?" Morthex asked. "Keep you safe until the war ends, then return you to your people," Johnson replied. "And if the war never ends?" Johnson considered that. "Then we would keep you safe forever." The concept was so alien that Morthex couldn't process it. An enemy that would capture you, keep you alive. General Taishika of the Kratari Federation had not spoken to a Zephyrian in 3 years. The war had made any communication between the species impossible. But today, she found herself on a secure channel with General Morden of the Zephyrian Empire, and both of them were terrified. "Have you seen the reports?" Taishka asked without any greeting. "Which reports?" Morden replied, though his tone suggested he knew exactly what she meant. "The humans. What they did at Vega Base. What they're doing everywhere." Morden was quiet for a moment. "General Morthex sent me a full briefing. He says the humans treated their prisoners better than we treat our own soldiers." "That's not the worst part," Taishka said. "Captain Velanash reported that a single human ship tried to protect a Zephyrian civilian habitat. From us. They died protecting your people from my people." Both generals sat in silence, trying to process what that meant. The humans were fighting both sides, but they weren't trying to destroy either side. They were trying to protect everyone. "This is not natural," Morden said finally. "No species fights like this." "They're changing the war," Taishika agreed. "Every battle they fight, every person they save, they make it harder for us to hate each other." It was true. For 3 years, both sides had been able to fight with total commitment because they knew their enemies were trying to wipe them out completely. It was easy to hate an enemy who wanted to kill your children. But the humans were saving children. From both sides. "My soldiers are asking questions," Morden admitted. "They want to know why the humans protect Kratari civilians, but we kill them." "Mine too," Taishka replied. "They're starting to wonder if there might be another way to fight." This was what both generals feared most. For 3 years, their armies had fought with the knowledge that surrender meant death and defeat meant extinction. That certainty had given them strength. But the humans were proving that wars could be fought without genocide, and that knowledge was spreading through both fleets like a virus. "We have to stop them," Taishka said, "before they destroy everything we've built." Agreed, Morden replied. For the first time since this war began, we have a common enemy. Meanwhile, in the neutral zone, Admiral Jake Morrison was reading reports that made him proud and worried at the same time. Human forces throughout the galaxy were winning battles, saving lives, and proving that there was another way to fight wars. But the reports from intelligence suggested that both alien factions were starting to view humanity as a bigger threat than each other. Sir, we're receiving a joint transmission from both alien command structures, reported Lieutenant Commander. Lisa Bennett, I want to speak with you directly. Jake had been expecting this. Put them through. The screen split to show both General Taishika and General Morden. Jake had never seen them before, but their expressions were identical. They looked like people who had discovered something that terrified them. Admiral Morrison, Taishika began, we must discuss the actions of your forces. What actions specifically? Jake asked, though he suspected he knew. Your ships are interfering with legitimate military operations, Morden said. You are protecting enemy civilians and treating captured soldiers as if they were guests. We're following standard human military law, Jake replied. Protection of non-combatants and humane treatment of prisoners are basic requirements. Both alien generals stared at him. Basic requirements for what? Taishka asked. For civilized warfare. The silence that followed was long and uncomfortable. Finally, Morden spoke. Admiral, there is no such thing as civilized warfare. War is the complete destruction of your enemies. Anything less is not war. That's where you're wrong, Jake said calmly. War is a tool used to achieve political goals. You don't achieve political goals by committing genocide. Political goals? Taishka sounded confused. The goal is survival. Either we destroy them, or they destroy us. Jake felt a chill as he realized what he was dealing with. These aliens literally couldn't conceive of war as anything other than mutual extinction. They had been fighting for so long that they had forgotten wars could end in anything except the complete destruction of one side. Generals, Jake said carefully, what if I told you there was a third option? What third option? Both aliens asked simultaneously. Peace. Words seemed to hit both generals like a physical blow. Taishka's 4 arms began shaking. Morden said eyes flickered with something that might have been panic. That is not possible, Morden said. The Kratari must be destroyed. The Zephyrians cannot be allowed to exist, Taishka added. Why? Jake asked. What did this war start? Over? Both generals looked at each other, then back at Jake. For a long moment, neither spoke. It started because ... double quotes Taishka began, then stopped. Because they ... Morden tried, and also stopped. Jake waited. Finally, Taishka spoke again. It started because we have always been at war. How long? Jake asked. 3 years of total war. Morden replied. Before that, border conflicts, resource disputes, territorial disagreements. For how long? Both aliens thought about it. Approximately 200 years, Taishka admitted. Jake stared at them. You've been fighting for 200 years, and you can't remember what you're fighting about? It doesn't matter what. It started over, Morden said defensively. Too much blood has been spilled. Too many have died. There can be no peace now. There can always be peace, Jake replied. But both sides have to want it. We cannot want peace with them, Taishka said. They are our enemies. They're your enemies because you're fighting them, Jake pointed out. If you stopped fighting them, they wouldn't be your enemies anymore. The concept was so simple and so alien that both generals looked physically ill. The idea that enemies could become non-enemies was beyond their understanding. Admiral Morrison, Morden said slowly, your species is dangerous. How so? You fight wars that can be ended, Taishka explained. This is not natural. Wars are meant to continue until one side is destroyed. Says who? Both aliens looked at each other again. They had never questioned the fundamental nature of warfare, because it had never occurred to them that warfare might have different fundamental natures. "Admiral," Tyska said, and for the first time Jake heard real fear in her voice, "we formally request that you withdraw your forces from this conflict immediately." "On what grounds?" "On the grounds that your presence is making it impossible for us to fight properly," Morden replied. Jake almost laughed. "You want us to leave so you can go back to trying to kill each other?" "Yes," both generals said at the same time. "No," Jake replied firmly. "We're not going anywhere." The transmission ended abruptly. Jake sat back in his chair, thinking about what he had just heard. The aliens weren't just afraid of losing the war. They were afraid of the war changing into something they couldn't understand. Not an hour later, Jake received a message that had been transmitted throughout the galaxy on all frequencies. It was a joint statement from both alien factions, and it was the most desperate thing Jake had ever read. "To all neutral species in the galaxy," the message began, "we are issuing a formal warning about the human species. These beings possess weapons of mass psychological destruction. They fight wars with the intention of ending them. They show mercy to enemies and protect non-combatants. They treat prisoners as if they were valuable rather than disposing of them efficiently." The message continued. "The humans are attempting to introduce concepts such as proportional response, rules of engagement, and post-conflict reconstruction into our military operations. These concepts are dangerous and must not be allowed to spread." Jake read the entire message twice before he realized what he was looking at. It was a declaration of war against the concept of civilized warfare itself. The final part of the message was addressed directly to humanity. "We demand that the human species withdraw from all military operations immediately. Your presence is corrupting the natural order of warfare. You are making it impossible for conflicts to reach their proper conclusion." Jake showed the message to his senior staff. Lisa Bennick read it and shook her head in amazement. "Sir, they're more afraid of us changing their war than they are of each other. Can you blame them?" Jake replied, "We've taken everything they thought they knew about warfare and turned it upside down." At that moment, Jake received one final message. It was from General Vexter, the Zephyrin who had tried to warn them at the beginning. "Admiral Morrison." The message read, "I tried to warn you not to enter this war. Now I understand that you never entered it at all. You brought your own war with you, and it is consuming ours. My people and the Krotari are not afraid of death. We are afraid of hope. You have shown us that this war could end without extinction, and that knowledge will destroy us faster than any weapon." The message ended with a single line that would haunt Jake for years. "Do not allow the humans into this war, because they will teach us that we never had to fight it in the first place." Jake looked out at the stars, knowing that there was no going back. Humanity had entered a galactic conflict, expecting to help end a war. Instead, they had started a revolution in the way wars were fought, and both sides were absolutely terrified of what that revolution might bring. 3 days later, General Tyska and General Morden met in person for the first time in 3 years. They met on a neutral station to